In 2024, while American women debate career choices and personal freedoms, 4 female Special Forces soldiers in North Korea were facing execution for the crime of questioning their starvation. At 26 years old, Sun Hee and her teammates made a decision that would cost them everything. They'd ever known their families, their country, their identities. What you're about to hear is the true story of 4 women who risked death twice, once by staying and once by running. This is their journey from elite soldiers to hunted fugitives, crossing 3 countries in pursuit of the freedom we take for granted every single day. If these stories matter to you, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us bring these untold stories to light. Together, we can be a voice for those who cannot speak. It all began in the winter of 2023 at a training camp outside Pyongyang. No, back then, it hadn't begun yet. Not really. I was just a sergeant in a female special operations squad under the Korean People's Army's 11th Corps, 26 years old. Proud of how far I'd climbed. On winter mornings when the temperatures swung around minus 20 Celsius, about minus 4 Fahrenheit, we lined up at 5 me sharp. There were 3 women beside me every day, Mi Kyung, Yoon Jung, and Hye Jin. We'd spent almost 8 years in the same unit. We weren't just teammates. We were sisters. Mi Kyung was my closest friend. Same hometown, Pyongyang, same age. Same enlistment class. Sun Hee, what should we eat after training today? Mi Kyung asked, even while running with a 20-kilogram pack about 44 pounds on her back. My sister sent corn cakes from home, I said. Let's split them. From behind us, Yoon Jung, the youngest, let out a cheer. Even in brutal training, we still found a way to laugh. Life at the camp was punishing. Still, I felt proud. My father had been a military cadre, too, wearing a uniform, serving the party. And the country was something my mother carried like a badge of honor. On holidays, I sometimes made it back to Pyongyang to see her. She would smooth the collar of my uniform and say, "Thank you for growing up so well." But nothing inside the unit was ever truly peaceful. There was a senior NCO named Kang Jong-suk. She was 6 years older than us. She looked at our group like something stuck to her shoe. And when I earned sergeant rank in my mid-20s, her jealousy got louder. How does a kid in her 20s even deserve those stripes? She'd mutter. I think she hated how close the 4 of us were, too. Those girls, something's off about them. I overheard her telling another senior one day. At the time, I brushed it off as envy. Nothing had started yet. We were loyal soldiers. We didn't question the system. When we returned to the barracks after training, we'd huddle around a stove and drink hot tea. Hyojin would talk about her hometown in Hamgyong province. Mikyung would tell stories from Pyongyang. Yoonjung would talk about Kaesong. My grandmother said they survived winters like this during the Korean War. Hyejin once said, we nodded. It felt like our job, to protect what our parents and grandparents had endured for. At dinner, we ate what the rations gave us, corn, rice, and soup. It was never enough, but special units lived better than regular ones. We should be grateful, Mi Kyung said. People outside don't even get this. And we accepted it like a fact. Back then, we truly believed it. Kang Jong-suk never missed a chance to needle us. Don't get cocky because you're young, she'd snap when we were together. This isn't about age, it's about experience. We would answer, yes, understood, because that's how the Army worked. I didn't know then that only a few months later, everything would collapse. And it would start with something small. In April 2024, spring arrived, but not for us. That day, the 4 of us were deployed to capture a deserter. Intelligence said he was hiding in a remote mountain village. In North Hamgyong province, our unit received the order. Comrades, capture the enemy. Who betrayed the nation, a superior barked before departure. At that point, I still saw deserters as criminals. A soldier running away was unforgivable. That's what we'd been taught. My heart hammered as we climbed the mountain path. It was my first real operation. Mikyung and Yoonjung looked tense. Only Hye-jin stayed calm, moving ahead like she owned the terrain. After 6 hours of hiking, we reached the village. A single shack sat there, half collapsed. Over there, Hyejin signaled. We spread out fast and surrounded it. When we kicked the door in, a young man mid-20s, maybe was trembling inside, about our age. He was clutching a bag of corn flour to his chest. "Come quietly," Hyojin told him. He started crying. "Please, comrades, my mother is starving. I only took one bag from the warehouse. Just one. I was going to cook her porridge." The words hit like a drop in my stomach. For his mother. He wasn't talking about money. He was talking about survival. I had a mother too, alone in Pyongyang. If she were starving, I would have done anything. But we had orders. He was bound and dragged back to base. 3 days later, they held a public execution in the yard. The entire unit was forced to watch. "See the fate of the people's enemy," the officer shouted. "The criminal who deserted and stole from the state." The shots cracked through the air. The young man collapsed. His last word was mother. Beside me, Mi-kyung made a small, broken sound like she couldn't stop it. Eunjung's face went pale as paper, her head dropping. Hyejin clenched her fists so tight her hands shook. That night in the barracks, none of us could speak. We sat by the stove, staring into nothing. After a long silence, Hyejin finally whispered, "Don't you think something is wrong?" Uni Mi-kyung's voice trembled. "He wasn't bad. He was just trying to save his mother." "Shh," I said, pressing a finger to my lips. In our country, walls had ears. Anyone could be listening, especially Kang Jong-suk. She was always watching. I couldn't sleep. That final word mother kept echoing in my head. Had my grandfathers suffered like this during the war? He used to say they endured hardship to protect their families. But what was this? A man trying to feed his mother was executed in front of us. That was the first time the thought slipped in. Quietly. Like a knife. Sliding under a door. What if the system we were protecting wasn't right? After that day, our lives didn't change on the surface. But the world looked different. By the summer of 2024, things got worse. The rations began to disappear. From today, rations will be reduced. They announced at morning formation. The nation is facing difficulty. Endure it. 3 meals became 2. Then 2 became 1. What remained was a thin mash of corn with a pinch of salt. Even special forces weren't spared. Training stayed brutal, but food kept shrinking. In July, on a hot day, Eunjung, only 24, collapsed mid-training. "Eunjung!" I ran and caught her. Mi-kyung, our medic, checked her fast. "Malnutrition," she said, eyes glassy. "If this continues, she won't make it." But we had nothing to give her. That night, Ye-jin fed Eunjung the last of the corn cakes she'd saved. "If you eat that, what about you?" Eunjung cried. "I'm fine," Hyejin said. "You need to stay alive." As rations fell, desertions rose. Every month, 3 or 4 soldiers vanished. Most were young men our age. Another one ran, we'd hear. This time it was a 19-year-old. Each time, we lowered our heads. We couldn't bring ourselves to hate them. Kang Jong-suk was different. "Those filthy traitors," she spat whenever the topic came up. "Scum who betray the nation!" And her eyes sharpened on us. One day she called the 4 of us in. Kim Sun-hee, Park Mi-kyung, Choi Aun-young, Ri Hyejin. Her voice was flat, but her gaze was cutting. "You've been gathering in secret." "What are you doing?" "Nothing," I said. "We're close. Same unit, same class." "Close?" she sneered. "You think you can form a clique in the army?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Your faces look strange lately. You hiding something? Thinking something?" A cold pulse ran through my back. Had she noticed? Had our silence become visible? "No," Hyejin answered evenly. "We are loyal soldiers." Kang Jong-suk laughed under her breath. "Sure," she said. "We'll see." That night, Hyejin summoned the 3 of us to a narrow gap behind a storage building. No moonlight reached it. It felt like the world held its breath. "I need to say this," she whispered. Her voice shook. "We have to get out. We have to escape." The words slammed into my chest. "What are you saying?" Mi-kyung's voice cracked. "You saw Eunjung drop," Hyejin said. "We're young. We can't die like this." And then her eyes hardened. "Remember that man they executed? That could be us. Any day?" She leaned closer. "Kang Jong-suk has us marked. She's waiting for a chance to report us. All she needs is one excuse." She was right. In our system, suspicion alone could destroy you. But if we run, Yunjung whispered, tears starting. Our families— I know, Hyojin said, her voice breaking for a second. My mother is back home too. She swallowed. But listen, if we die here called traitors, our parents will live in hell forever anyway. Her hands tightened. If we survive, there's at least a future, even if it's far away. My mother's face flashed in my mind. I couldn't die before I'd even seen her grow old. I've thought about it too, I admitted, barely above a breath. I don't think I can endure this anymore. In the dark, the four of us looked at each other, young, hungry, watched, and suddenly certain. Better to risk everything for life than wait for death. That night, our fate was sealed. From then on, we prepared quietly, carefully. By September 2024, autumn was coming in. It was the best time to move. Not too cold, and the mountains were thick with cover. Hyojin, the reconnaissance expert, studied routes. Most people cross the Tumen or Yalu rivers into China, she said. But security there is brutal. We need another way. She laid out a map she'd stolen from the unit library. Look here, Onseong County, North Hamgyong. There's a path toward the Russian border. She tapped the paper. Less guarded than the China side. And if we reach Russia, she continued, it's not like China. China sends people back. Russia is different. She spoke faster now, like she'd rehearsed it 100 times. From Russia, we can move toward Mongolia. Then we can reach South Korea. Mikyung gathered medical supplies, alcohol swabs, bandages, painkillers taking a little at a time from the infirmary. Eunjung, our communications specialist, prepared what she could. A compass, flashlights, batteries. I saved food corn, potatoes, and salt, hiding it in small pouches. But every step was dangerous. Kang Jong-suk's surveillance tightened by the day. One afternoon, she cornered me. Kim Sun-hee, you've been leaving food behind in the mess hall. Her eyes narrowed. Where is it going? You hiding it? My appetite is gone, I said, keeping my face blank. Inside, sweat ran cold. Then, in mid-September, everything snapped. Hyojin rushed to us, breath shallow. It's bad, she whispered. Kang Jong-suk is going to report us to state security. What? My voice came out sharp. I saw it, Hyojin said. She was talking to a security officer. She said, there are soldiers showing strange signs. It was us. Time turned into a cliff edge. We don't have a choice, I said. We leave this week. But we're not ready, Mikyung protested. If security grabs us, it's over, Hyojin said, voice hard now. Torture, confession, execution. Her eyes swept over us. We are not dying like that. We chose October 15th, just before dawn. A night training exercise was scheduled. It would be easy to pass the gate. We leave like we're going out for training, Hyojin explained. We can carry weapons. No one will question it. The night before we ran, I wrote a letter to my mother. I couldn't send it, but I couldn't not write it. Mother, forgive your unfilial daughter. I'm leaving you behind. But I'm not leaving to die. I'm leaving to live. In this land, young people like us cannot survive. People are executed for nothing. People starve to death. I want to live. I want to live free. Thank you for giving birth to me and raising me. Whenever you told me about your hardships, I wanted to become strong like you. That's why I'm doing this. If reunification ever comes, I will find you. I promise. Until then, please stay healthy. I will wait for you on South Korean soil. I love you, Mother. When I finished, the page blurred. Leaving at 26. Abandoning my mother, what could be more unforgivable? But we all carried the same wound. Each of us had parents back home. Still, we had to live. Before dawn, we left the base in night training uniforms. Backpacks on. Rifles in hand. We walked through the gate like soldiers headed to an exercise. But we knew this was our last night on North Korean soil. It was the moment we stepped toward a river we could never cross back. At 2 a.m., on October 15, 2024, we slipped out. Night training, we reported to the duty officer, and passed through the main gate. My heart felt ready to explode, but my face stayed empty. Special Forces training made that possible. The moment we cleared the base, we ran toward the mountains leading to Onseong County. Move! Hae-jin shouted from the front. At roll call, they'll realize we're gone. We sprinted along the ridgeline, legs burning, lungs ripping. 8 years of training finally meant something. We ran for 5 hours without stopping. We needed to reach the border area before sunrise. In daylight, movement would be suicide. Mi-kyung and Yoon-jung looked close to breaking, but they kept going. Just a little more, I urged from behind. If we want to live, we don't stop. As the sky began to lighten, we reached a hill overlooking the Tumen River. There, Hae-jin said, pointing. That water is the line. Across it is Russia. And then, stop right there. Don't move. A shout behind us. Border guards. They had realized. They had chased. We can't get caught, Yoon-jung gasped, panic rising. Full sprint, Hae-jin yelled. To the river! We tore down the hill. Gunfire cracked behind us, sharp, stuttering bursts. Bullets snapped past, too close. Down, Hae-jin yelled, and we dropped, instinct taking over. Now! I shouted, pulling out a training smoke grenade. I threw it. White smoke bloomed fast. Run, Hae-jin ordered. We moved through the smoke, lungs burning, eyes watering. Behind us came screaming curses. Traitors! We didn't look back. We hit the riverbank. The October water was brutal. Hae-jin went first. Go, she said, and she plunged in. We followed. The river felt like knives. Eun-jung screamed, her voice breaking into the cold air. Hold on, Mi-kyung said, grabbing her hand. We locked hands, refusing to let anyone slip away. The water was deeper than it looked. It climbed to our waists. Our limbs went numb. Every step felt slower than the last. I shouted over the splashing, half mad with effort. My grandparents crossed rivers like this in wartime. We can do it! Behind us, more gunfire. The guards had reached the bank. But they didn't enter. Crossing meant stepping onto Russian soil. They couldn't follow. Die, you traitors! Their voices carried across the water, fading and furious. After what felt like forever 10 minutes, maybe, Hae-jin called out, voice raw. We're there! That bank, Russia! We forced out the last of our strength and climbed onto the opposite shore. For a second, none of us could speak. Then Mi-kyung started laughing and crying at once. We did it, she said, voice shaking. We did it. Eun-jung collapsed, sobbing into the dirt. Hae-jin grabbed me, and I grabbed her, and the four of us held each other like we were afraid we'd vanish. We were alive, not because the world was kind, because we kept moving, because we trusted each other. Behind us, the guards' shouts still echoed, but we weren't in North Korea anymore. Mother, I said silently, throat tight. I lived. I found my way out. We didn't understand yet that the hardest part was still ahead. Russia wasn't safety. It was just the next danger. When we set foot on Russian soil, we thought, this is freedom. We were wrong. Russia wasn't a land of freedom for us. It was another kind of hell. We hid in the forest, clothes soaked and freezing. October air cut through us. Our wet uniforms began to stiffen. We need a fire, Hae-jin said, teeth chattering. We'll freeze like this. But fire meant smoke. Smoke meant attention. Hold on, I said, voice barely steady. Once the sun comes up, the clothes will dry. We pressed together, sharing body heat, trying to survive the night. We were young. That was the only reason it worked. Older bodies might have gone into hypothermia and never come back. After sunrise, we moved again carefully. We had heard there were ethnic Koreans in the Russian Far East Koryo-Saram, Korean descendants from the Soviet era. We had to find them. There, Eun-jung whispered, pointing. A small village. As we stepped in, people stared. We must have looked insane. We'd stripped off parts of our uniforms, wearing whatever we could manage. Nothing matched. Nothing made sense. An elderly woman approached and spoke in Korean. You're from North Korea, she said, not as a question. Yes, Mi-kyung answered, tears spilling. Please help us. The woman let out a long breath. You poor girls. How old are you? In our 20s, I said. She shook her head slowly, eyes wet. My granddaughter's age. Then she waved us forward. Come with me. In her home, she gave us warm soup and bread. Eat, she said, pushing the bowls toward us. Eat a lot. Her voice softened. Your parents, she murmured, swallowing emotion. How could I not help you? She told us her own History, how her family had been forcibly relocated under the Soviet Union. Leaving home, she said, was a pain that never fully healed. She understood that kind of loss. We stayed hidden there for a week. But we couldn't remain. Russian police were known to check for undocumented foreigners. And if we were caught, deportation was possible back into the hands we'd escaped. The bigger threat was the one we couldn't see. North Korean agents operated in Russia, too. They hunted defectors. And women like you, the grandmother warned, voice low, especially former soldiers, they won't let you go easily. We thanked her until our throats closed. Then we left. We headed toward Vladivostok. Our goal was the South Korean embassy. But in the city, reality hit us in a different way. We needed money. If we're going to reach South Korea, we have to survive here. First, Hyojin said, we need work. We found jobs at a Korean restaurant, washing dishes, cleaning floors, serving tables. The owner, a middle-aged woman, looked at us with pity. You're so young, she said. Why are you doing this? We worked 12 hours a day. Our hands turned rough. Our bodies ached. But we kept going. This is still freedom, I told the others, forcing the words out. At least we chose this. No one chose it for us. About a month later, we saw them. Strange men lingering outside the restaurant. Not customers, not locals, just watching. Yoonjung's voice went thin. Those men, they looked like North Korean agents. We slipped out the back door and ran. We can't stay here, Hyojin said. We go to the embassy. Now, even that wasn't simple. We had to avoid Russian police checkpoints. We had to shake anyone tailing us. We moved only at night, hiding during the day. Step by step, we edged closer. At last, we reached the area near the embassy. The security was tight. How do we get in? Mi-kyung asked, shaking. Not through the front gate, Hyojin said. We need another way. For days, we circled the area like ghosts. Then, by chance, we saw a South Korean embassy staff member outside. I walked toward him, careful, hands visible. We're from North Korea, I said quietly. Please help us. His face tightened in shock. He looked at us, really looked, and his expression changed. Come with me, he said. And just like that, we crossed another line. The 2 months of hell in Russia ended the moment the embassy doors closed behind us. Inside the embassy, we finally let out a breath. We didn't know we'd been holding. We're alive, Eunjung whispered, collapsing to the floor and sobbing. The staff welcomed us with warmth that felt unreal. You've suffered so much, one older man told us. Now you're safe. His voice reminded me of my father, steady, protective. But getting you to South Korea will take time, he added. Leaving Russia directly isn't easy. He explained a safer route through Mongolia. You'll travel from Russia to Mongolia, he said. Then you'll go to South Korea from there. It takes longer, but it's the safest option. We nodded. After what we'd endured, a little longer didn't scare us. In December 2024, in the heart of winter, the embassy helped secure train tickets to Mongolia. On the train, a staff member warned, speak as little as possible. Don't draw attention. When we boarded, I stared out the window. Siberia stretched endless and pale. It's huge, Mi-kyung whispered. Yeah, I said. I didn't know the world was this big. In North Korea, you don't learn how wide the world is. You learn how small it must be. The train ran for 3 days. We stayed tense the entire time. What if police checked documents? What if agents had boarded too? But nothing happened. When we arrived in Ulaanbaatar, it was December 15th. The cold cut straight through our coats. So this is Mongolia, Hyojin said softly. We went straight to the South Korean embassy there. They welcomed us, stunned. Former female special forces, one staff member asked. How did the 4 of you make it here alive? We kept each other alive, I answered. But even in Mongolia, danger followed. One day, we saw unfamiliar men pacing outside our lodging. Yoonjung's face drained. Again, she whispered. North Korean agents. Hyojin called the embassy immediately. Security arrived. We were moved to a safer location. Be careful, the staff warned. They don't stop. Those 2 weeks in Mongolia were a constant knot of tension. Still, we completed the process paperwork, interviews, health checks. You'll be able to go to South Korea soon, they told us. Then the day came. On January 5th, 2025, we boarded a flight to Incheon. Are we really going? Yoon-jung asked, like the words might break. Yes, Mi-kyung said, tears already falling. It's real. The plane lifted. Mongolia dropped away beneath the clouds. We did it, Yejin said, taking our hands. We really did it. We cried and held each other, the way people do, when they've survived something they can't fully name. Only 3 months earlier, crossing the Tumen River, we had no certainty we'd reach this point. But we were here. Mother, I whispered inside my chest, staring out at the sky. I'm going to South Korea. I found freedom. The cabin announcement came on. We will soon arrive at Incheon International Airport. And the moment I heard it, tears slid down my face. We were going to the Republic of Korea, a land of hope, a land of choice. As the plane began to descend, the lights of Korea appeared below, steady and bright. We looked at each other and smiled. Young, brave, and still together. On January 5th, 2025, when we arrived at Incheon International Airport, I knew I would never forget that moment. The second we stepped into the terminal, my breath caught. I had never seen a place so large, so bright, so clean. Is this really South Korea? Yoon-jung asked, eyes wide. Lights glittered everywhere. People moved freely, unafraid. No one watched them. No one yelled commands. No one demanded papers. So this is freedom, Hye-jin murmured. Government staff greeted us. Welcome to the Republic of Korea. The words broke something open inside us. We held each other and cried. We had escaped North Korea, crossed into Russia, made it through Mongolia, and reached South Korea. In the car leaving the airport, I couldn't stop looking out the window. Tall buildings, wide roads, endless cars. Uni, Mi-kyung said, stunned, pointing. That store says it's open 24 hours. A shop open all day and night felt like science fiction. We were taken to Hanwon, South Korea's resettlement center for North Korean defectors. We would live there for 3 months and learn how to survive in a new society. Language, culture, daily life. Everything there felt impossible. On the first evening, we entered the cafeteria and froze. So much food. Can we really eat all of this? Eun-jung asked a staff member. Yes, the staff member said. Eat as much as you want. Tears came, fast and uncontrollable. In classes, we learned things that had never existed in our world. How to use a smartphone, how the internet works, how banks operate, how public transit runs. You can search anything now, a teacher told us. You can read any news you want. You can learn about the world. The sentence landed like thunder. Another shock was South Korean women in their 20s. Young female staff members at Hanwon wore what they liked, styled their hair how they wanted, spoke freely, laughed freely, lived like their lives belonged to them. Do you think we can live like that too? I asked Mi-kyung quietly. Of course, she said, taking my hand. We're free now. During my time there, I used a computer to search for news about North Korea. I saw articles about human rights abuses, things I had lived through, things like that. Execution were being reported to the world. We need to tell people, Hye-jin said. We can't let it stay hidden. After 3 months, we completed Hanwon. The government provided settlement assistance and helped arrange housing. The 4 of us decided to live together. We came this far together, Hye-jin said. Let's keep going together. Now I'm preparing for university. I want to study psychology. I want to help people with trauma like ours. Mi-kyung plans to study nursing. Yoon-jung wants computer engineering. Hye-jin wants social welfare. Adjusting isn't easy. Sometimes people look at our accent and stare. Sometimes South Korea's speed overwhelms us. In supermarkets, there are so many choices that my mind goes blank. But I'm still happy. I can sleep at night without fear. I'm not hungry. I can choose what to study. It feels like a dream. At night, I think of the family I left behind. Is my mother safe? Is my younger sibling okay in the army? Every night, I pray for them. Please stay alive. Please stay healthy. One day, we will meet again. A few days ago, I went to Gwanghwamun in Seoul. There was an event calling for reunification. Standing there, I thought about the day the peninsula becomes one again. When that day comes, I will go back to Pyongyang. I will hold my mother and tell her, Mother, your daughter found freedom, and now so did we. I believe our generation must do this. People in their 20s like us. We must become the ones who push history forward. So I study, I prepare, I wait, and I ask you this. In North Korea, there are still young people like us. They suffer. They dream of freedom, but they don't know how to begin. I hope my story becomes a small light for them. And to those of you in South Korea, I ask you please don't forget North Korea. Please don't look away. Please keep caring about reunification. Even now, I keep dreaming of one homeland, one free Korea, and I will keep living for that dream. Thank you.